Good day and welcome back to Velocity Thanking South Africa. This is your host, just sharing a practical example like I have shared in the past that I would go through with you, a practical example of a real person in South Africa doing velocity banking. So today I will show you an example of somebody with an income of 15,000 Rand with living expenses of 4,500 Rand. So what I will do for this video is I've rounded up all the figures. So I won't be putting commas and this and this. It's all rounded off figures, but they are an example of a real person going through their monthly expenses and how they could pay off. This person owes quite a number of people, mostly Mashonisas. So in my paper, you could see they owe a number of people, and most of the time with the short-term loan sharks in South Africa, you would pay 40% interest. That is quite high, and this person does have, fortunately for them, a line of credit in a form of a credit card. So they're very fortunate. So we will start looking at how they can overcome their debt using this line of credit or as a way of fighting off the debt. So let's get into the calculations. So the first thing we'll look at is the line of credit. So currently this person owes 51,000 rands. I won't put the rands at the front. So 51,000 rands. But their credit card could go up to 140,000. So that's what the limit is at. Currently, they owe 51,000 rands. With this person having so many debts and loans, what I would advise them to do is to combine all these figures of Abu Mashwanisa. Okay, let's see how that goes. So like I said, this person in their first month, they take out their living expenses of 4,500 rands, and then still they have other debts that they didn't take out all the money from the credit card to pay for. They still have other debts, like your short-term loan, like Capfin. They still have a minimum payment of 2,000 rands that they have to make. So they still have that debt to pay. So now it's that. Looking at their monthly expenses, it's 51,000 rands. They still have to pay the 2,300 rands. And then also for this month, these are minuses actually. They still come from the credit card. The interest of 51,000 rands on 66,000 rands, which is the highest balance they had for the month, 990 rands. So that is the highest interest they'll ever pay for this credit period, as long as they stick on to doing velocity banking. So by the end of month one, we're looking at those. So they would end up with owing now the bank 58,000. Sorry about my horrible handwriting. 58,790. So that's the balance they're starting with on the second month. So second month we're starting with 58,790. And then what happens now? Second month, we get our salary in of 15,000 rands, which instantly reduces the interest that you'll be paying by the end of the month. So we minus the 15,000 rands and then add the expenses, which is his living expenses are 4,500 rands. Because this would be the second month for this person. What I forgot to say, I'm now looking at my numbers and they are not making sense. And what I forgot to say was that 2,300 rands that they had to pay the previous month was the last amount that they had to pay for that month. So they concluded that date. So probably that is why I didn't even worry for them to push it into the credit card. So it's no longer there. So for this month, the only expenses they are dealing with is the 4,500 rands, which is their living expenses. And I usually advise people then do not now expand your you're leaving, because now you're seeing all this 9,500 rands that is now available to you. Remember, you still owe the bank this huge amount of money that you have to pay that. But then also remember, banks still charge interest at the end of every month. So for the second month, their interest would be 915, which is just 18% of 58,790 divided by 12, because interest rate is calculated at an annual. So yeah, that's the second highest interest they ever pay at the bank if they stick to velocity banking and they don't use their card again for other expenses. So by the end of month 3, their balance would be 51,438. So see the huge difference that this made. Just to pay off the debts, they still would be having 3 to 4 mashonisas and another short-term payment method, and they wouldn't be done with those expenses, and their credit card balance would still be way higher than that 51,000 rands. But because of velocity banking, they've cut all those costs. They end 15,000 rands out of the blue, out of nowhere. For the third month, we do the calculations again. They still, I believe, if you want to get out of debt, you stick to your lifestyle. So for this third month now, so this is month 2, month 3, the opening balance is 51,438, and then we subtract the salary that they will get, which is 15,000 rands, and then add the living expenses, which is 4,500 rands. See, their salary is really working for them this time around to pay their debt. And then we'll also add the interest rates. Remember that the bank is still going to charge based on the highest value for the month. And this month, it's the highest value that they would be owing, or highest balance would be that 51,438. So we add that interest rate, that interest, which is 771. And then the opening of fourth month or closing of third month, their bank balance or credit would be 41,709. Then the salary comes in, magic, meh? It's more like they're using that entire 15,000 rands to pay off their debt, but then they're still living again off their credit card, so they still add the living expenses of 4,500 rands, and we're still hoping that they still have not changed their lifestyle. They are still sticking to that 4,500 rands. But then again, notice something with this much cash flow, this person just does not need to have an emergency saving or anything like that. As long as they're tackling their debt wisely, they could always go again to the credit card if should they have an emergency or they need 2,000 rands urgently for something that is really, really critical. They could still go back to the credit card and borrow that money. Now, I do not advise people to borrow money for unnecessary things or a lifestyle creep. Yeah, so if that person sticks to this, very soon they will be out of debt. So for the fourth month, they subtract that 15,000 rands, and then towards their credit card add 4,500 rands, which is their living expenses. And I'm thinking with this 4,500 rands at this point in time, they could probably even still be able, maybe really, really living to the bare minimum, that even their groceries were not nutritious enough. With this amount, probably they could still maybe slightly increase their living expenses, maybe by 1,000 rands. But I wouldn't advise anything more than that, just to ensure that we are living a normal life and we're still paying our debts. But what I noticed with me was that as soon as I saw that the balance is going down every month, I was so encouraged that I didn't even want to update or upscale my life. I actually wanted to reduce the things because I'm like, oh, I'll be out of debt very soon if I stick to this. Sorry for me rambling again. So for the fourth month, we have this 15,000 rands, and then their living expenses. That's 4,500 rands. They take it from their credit card, and then we still have the interest that is being charged every end of the cycle for the month. So each credit card has got its own closing cycle dates. Most of the people to be the 25th, others are to be the 5th, others are to be the 1st. It depends on what your agreement with the bank is. So at the end of that cycle, the bank would send you a statement to say, this is how much you've used and this is how much interest you've used. So basing on that, this person's interest rate is 18%, and their highest balance for the month was 41,709. Their interest would be 626, meaning for the 5th month, their opening balance would be, look at this, my goodness, 31,835. What a huge difference. So yeah, you could see that person is really now working off the debts, paying off the debts as quickly as possible without getting a second job, without borrowing from anyone, without needing anyone late. This person literally is living a normal life, and they are paying that debt in that way. So month 5, they open with that, and then we add their salary of 15,000 rands. And then we subtract 15,000 rands and then add the living expenses of 4,500 rands. And as the interest is going down every month, so the interest for this month, the interest 18% of 31,835 would be 478. And I'm not doing magic. I did do this numbers off camera, like I said before, because it was taking quite a lot of time. So I wouldn't be taking too much time on screen explaining how I got to those figures. But please do understand, it's their living expenses, their salary goes, balances their credit card, and then they take off their living expenses and pay their interest rate. And yeah, I forgot the bank charges, but usually they more like 200 rands or something like that. But you will see with this, without actually calculating the bank charges, the debt is going down very quickly. So for this month, they would be closing off with a balance of 21,813. Month 6, their opening balance is still there, 21,813. And then from there, we put in our salary. That takes a big chunk, 15,000 rands. And then we add our living expenses, 4,500 rands. Sorry about my horrible handwriting. And then our interest for this month. Look at this. Look at the magic. It's 327. See, even the interest is going down every month. So this person is basically almost out of debt at month 8, month 6. So we the balance after month 6 is 11,640. Look at that. And then for the following month, which is month 7, we subtract the 15,000, which is their salary, add in their living expenses, add in the interest rate. So for the 7th month, look at this. It's now 175. And then after month 7, their total for the month, or their closing balance for the month, would be 1,315. So we can see already by month 7, this person can actually be saying, I am done. I've paid off the credit card. But then since we have that 1,315 balance for the 8th month, they do not have to actually deposit the money into the credit card. They could just, from their 15,000 rand salary, pay off the 315, 1,000. We can pay off 1,350 plus 4,500, and guess what? There is no interest. So it's 5, 1, 8 plus. So all they have to, like, for this month, their money that they have to use for their basic living expenses and paying off their debt would be 5,000 815, and the remainder of their salary is theirs, which is now they could start investing this money, doing other things that they couldn't do it in the past. And they did that within 7 months. They didn't have to go back to Umashonisa. They didn't have to go to another short term loan company. So yeah, if you'd also like some help with your finances as well, you can just send me on email, an email on this channel. It's in the information link, and we can work through your budget as well, and we can see where we could free off your money. Please don't forget to share this with your friends, and really do look at the numbers, think about it. And like I say, do not do velocity banking if you're not serious about getting out of debt. Do not do velocity banking if you are not serious about getting out of debt. That's my message for the day. But you can see a huge balance of 66,000 rands could be paid off top 7 months. Thank you.